everybody. Thanks for joining us. I love that music to the intro. I want to say right now, this is a great time to be in northern Minnesota. Fantastic fishing, a lot of open water, very little ice. It's sad. Sad to see the ice go. For some, not. For me, very sad. And I just want to thank everybody for coming out to the Minnesota Fishing Museum. And hey, good to see you, Nicholas. Uh, and the Hall of Fame night with the pros. It was a lot of fun raising funds for the museum, and of course, without a museum, how do we have any history? And remember, all the pros out there, if you're under 50 or 60, you probably didn't pave the road, but you're driving down it fast. So we got to remember where it all came from, and good thing to do. And if you want to get involved with the Minnesota Fishing Museum, by all means do online. If you want to help, give them a call. Hey, Neil, good to see you here. And in that, and keep in mind too that this show is brought to you by Chesterburg Toyota. I want to thank them for being sponsoring the on-air show. And Chesterburg is a place. Stop in and say hi to Brian and the gang. And if you're looking for a nice truck, if you want to get something fixed, they have state-of-the-art place to do it. So make sure. Good to see you guys. Make sure you stop in if you're in Bemidji. And then while you're there, stop at a Bemidji Sports Center. If you want to get a tricked out ride, you want a four wheeler. And remember, Bemidji is land of four wheeler trails. Four wheeling is a big deal. I'm a fisherman, but I love driving my four wheeler. But there's people who drive four wheelers all over the place. And we got a lot of trails. And so, Bemidji is a great destination. And definitely stop in at Bemidji Sports Center to check out some of these tricked out rides. And then visit Bemidji. If you're going to be heading to Bemidji, whether you're bringing a boat, you're going to be on shore fishing, wherever you're going to do, just to get away, morels maybe, or you want to bring a four wheeler or rent a four wheeler, you call Visit Bemidji. They're going to hook you up with where to go, what to do. And I really appreciate those guys. Brady and the bunch will definitely be there to help you. And they're just an awesome thing. And thanks for supporting the show. But before I bring in Sam here, I want to tell you we got a lot of stuff going on tonight. We're going to be talking about tips and tricks on the river. Hey, I'm not telling you how to fish the river if you fished it your whole life, but we might have a trick or two you don't know. So you want to stay tuned. And Brooke, bring on Sam, who is now his title's so big I can't even remember it. Sam, what's your title now?
We're product manager now. So
see, you struggled with it.
I know.
Product manager, and won the walleye stamp, which is on the wall behind me right here, and designed a lot of the lures we're going to talk about in between here, what we used on the river, and something that everybody wants. Sam, they all want to get in your mind. So, but good to have you, Sam. What's going on? What do you know about this river thing, man? The Rainy River.
Well, let's talk about that. But before we get too deep into it, because I know what's going to happen. We're going to start talking about the river, and the show is going to go by, and I'm going to forget to remind everyone about the prize pack. So we got a prize pack tonight, like always. A bunch of Northern gear, some Bro Roadshow gear, some swag from Visit Bemidji. So make sure to like, comment, and share the show, and that'll get you entered in to win. Brooke will be picking out a winner towards the end of the show. So like, comment, and share.
That's fantastic. Wow. What a haul there, huh?
Exactly. Now back to the fun stuff. The
river. Let's hear it, man.
Yep. So we were able to sneak out on Monday and get up to the river, and it was a pretty good time. From what I talked to other people and heard, numbers were a little bit better over the weekend, but it was still really good fishing, fun fishing, and we caught some big ones too.
Yeah, it was fantastic, and I'm a good guy. Now that day I didn't catch the biggest fish. You caught the biggest fish, but you're sneaky. We're catching a bunch of 25s, 27s, and then all of a sudden here. Oh, and here's the day before I was with Heather, and she's catching these big fish, and she loves them. She's hugging them like they're a big baby, and she had three fish, 2 over 30 and a 28 and a half, and she just had a great time, and she's like, "I'm good now for the whole year."
Look at the
For
shoulders on
rain.
that one.
Yeah. Well, so look at this thing. We're talking for a while there. You kind of wonder, is it a sturgeon? And my coach just full of fish slime, but these are giant fish, and it's been easy. It's really been easy this year. Look at
Yep.
these fish. Now, there's a
Hey,
little thing there. Hold that photo there for a second. You notice Sam he got slippery on me. He got sneaky. He slipped on a minnow on there,
yeah.
and then he slipped into something else that we can't quite show yet,
So
right?
this is a Bro Roadshow exclusive. Get your screenshots of that jig because we'll be having something hopefully later this summer for sure next year. But we were testing out some of the new stuff, and it was Rainy River walleye approved. That's for sure.
That was I didn't know if I was going to be unhappy about it or happy, but when I seen what it was, I couldn't believe it, and never expected it. And there's more to come about that jig and all the talking that ensued afterwards. But it was only in the water for minutes, and in the rest of the time he was there, it was one after another. And that was the day of the eclipse, and
Yep.
we noticed something happening. It got very dark. The fishing got very terrible, and
Hmm.
then right when it was going on, the deer were fleeing Minnesota, going to the other side. They were swimming across. I thought that was really, really cool seeing that, how fast they could swim.
Yep. And it was interesting because, again, we were up there just enjoying our time. We didn't realize that your graph didn't update to the proper time zone. So we weren't
Yeah.
really even paying that close of attention to the moon deal going on. But after I grabbed my phone and looked it up, it was like, hey, this has been going on for the last hour and a half, right when it lulled. And it kind of brightened back up a little bit, even though we had cloudy conditions. And boom, we started getting into them pretty good again. So,
Yeah, I didn't notice your eyes glowing or anything at the time, or there was no swirling winds and
yep.
or lightning bolts, but it did get dark, and too bad we couldn't have seen it. Of course, with the right glasses, everybody. But it was very interesting, and so we're probably not shadow followers, but we definitely had
Yep.
good fishing before and afterwards. And then the geese went absolutely berserk during that and fled the Canadian side to the Minnesota
Mhm.
side. So I don't know, this crisscrossing animal stuff was kind of interesting, and but that's all that happened. We're still here, and then the fish picked up right after. As soon as it got bright, they went
Yep.
crazy. But one thing that did change is during that dark period, we noticed a little change. We were hammering them on plastics, but
Yep.
as soon as it got dark, it was time to bring out some minnows. It just seemed like minnows and really concentrating on small areas work. But that day, we were kind of weighing the situation. Do
For
you
sure.
stay or do you go?
And it was kind of backwards from what I think a lot of people would typically expect in a river situation. We got out there, you started with minnows, I started with eye candy. And you got on the board first. You caught, I don't know, 3 or 4 saugers and a couple walleyes. But then when I switched to that white plastic on that first little drift we made, we caught that first decent, I don't know, it was probably a chunky 20-incher. And then shortly after that, I was dragging my jig, tying on something else, and we had that really big bite that unfortunately we dumped. One of those ones where you pick up the rod, and I thought sturgeon, and you're like, nope, that's a big walleye. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, 2 head shakes, and it was back into the abyss of the river, so we never got to see that one. But then shortly after that, we started getting more and more fish on plastics. You swapped to plastic, so the morning bite was all plastics throughout the day, and then all of a sudden it just started to slow down a little bit. And you picked up the live bait, caught a few again. I picked it up and stuck that really nice one right towards the end. So
It made a
um,
big difference.
it did, and I think it's really important to have both those options in the boat because you never
So
know. The river seems to be one of the pickiest uh, presentation places I've been to, and I think that's kind of all rivers. I don't know. They
it
just
is.
rivers are a living, breathing system, and when the fish want one thing, it seems like they want it really, really specifically. And I think it has to do with all the factors based in the river: current, water clarity, and how quickly those factors change. It's a tough environment for them to live down in there.
It
So
is, but you notice that it didn't seem like it's not like they're all going to one area up far and past
yeah,
Birchdale somewhere and just jamming in there. It seems like I think some of the fish are just working different areas in the pools
yep,
and are being on the shoreline, going deep, going shallow. And when it's a temperature game because when that water gets closer to 50s, I've seen them just jam into different areas, and I think in it throughout the whole river there's areas they pull in and do their thing, and I've noticed that from late in the year, the later you get to the end of the season, and the DNR's got it right perfect because that last day of the season, I have seen some of the biggest fish I've ever seen in Minnesota caught in the Rainy River, and there was a fellow that was just catching them, but he had a little grip and was holding it up, and I don't know if it was a bubba or what it was, but he had one he lifted up, and his last one was 13.8
yeah.
of the day, and he said he had enough, and that was his biggest fish of the day. So 13 pounds 8 ounces, and the later it gets, it seems like there's just one wave after another, and we've seen it. So this Saturday and Sunday, it is going to be like a big deal. It's Madison Square Garden Fight Central. It's going to be a big deal. It's a last couple of days, and the way things are rolling, and just after the eclipse and all the lunar and sun activity,
Yeah.
this lunar table. I didn't get a chance to check it out. I'm going to do that right now as we speak, but
So
we're setting up for a real epic bite.
you talking about those waves, I feel like this weekend was a perfect example of the waves. So Charlie and Jace from the office were up there with Donnie on Thursday, and they caught really really good numbers and good quality fish, but not the giants that people are up there for or whatnot. And then the weekend hit, and I swear every person I talked to, including you and Heather, were up there on Sunday. But I talked to multiple people, and they're like, "Oh, the numbers were ridiculous, and we got one over 30." I think I talked to 3 or 4 groups that got one over 30, and it seemed like every group I talked to got one over 28, and the numbers were incredible. And then we got up there on Monday, and the numbers tailed down, but we still got a few of those nicer fish. So I think that was a perfect example of how those waves kind of move through. And like you said, hopefully next weekend falls on a perfect example again, and you get another big wave of fish coming.
I've always been a believer in the last few days of this of the season, but I did look at the lunar table, and it really gets low percentages. It all boils into a percentage, and the thing I've noticed, we were at 96%, but then that was like earth ending kind of stuff. And if you look, Saturday is poor,
Mm,
14%, and then we go to Sunday, 31%. And this thing, I watch it. When it's really high, you got to watch out for deer. You got to watch out. We don't have very many turkeys here, but you got to watch out for turkeys. And this is what's going on right now. You can see there's a little line right there, 77% good. And then tomorrow it's still holding on, and then it crashes after that. So I love this thing, but there's a lot of mitigating factors, and I think that uh, barometer is a huge thing. And we had super low barometer that day. I think we'd have really absolutely hammered the fish, but the barometer was really sagging,
yep.
and I like it a little closer to 30, and we were in that 29.70. Good for pike, but I don't like it for walleyes.
Well, you put the mega live down there, and we're dragging over, or we're as we are going over fish, we got to see how many fish
Oh,
were down there, and it was just flooded.
yeah,
But I think, like you said, with that pressure, you really had to kind of slowly work those fish in, and kind of, I mean, talking about dragging those plastics. Um, what what kind of I was kind of lightly popping and dragging from the start, but what really convinced me for the rest of the day is when I set the rod down and
yeah,
literally just dragging it in the current with the rod down, and that big one hit. I was like, okay, we need to be really, really subtle with it. And a lot of times that little pop after a subtle drag is what triggered the strikes. But yeah, definitely being subtle with your plastics was the deal up there on Monday.
absolutely. And when I had the mega live down, it was true. If you want to snipe fish, it's hard to do because the sturgeon and the walleyes and the northerns and maybe some whitefish. There's stuff all over the place, and it's crazy how many fish are. You almost need to set up on one good sandy spot and let them
Mhm.
come through and then snipe them. But you could just catch them fishing. So it's a place you could just fish. No, there's going to be no worrying about who wants to use forward viewing or not up there. It doesn't matter because
Yeah.
you're going to catch fish no matter what you do. We watch people staring at it and they just drove out of sight and we never seen them the rest of the day. We never seen them cast, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to fish because you got a big fish right when they went by.
Yeah, say luckily the river's like one of those systems, and you said the solar lunar tables are going to be low this weekend. People are still going to be catching a lot of big fish up there, just because the concentration of fish is so heavy. We were talking about that when you stopped in the office today. I think fish swim from miles and miles and miles to come spawn in that river.
Hmm.
Um, so the concentrations are so thick. You don't really need to spot on spot. I will say one of the most effective electronic tools I've seen up there is side imaging.
Yes.
You can learn a lot from your side imaging, finding those sand riffles, seeing the little grains of rice in the sand riffles, which are walleyes. Finding little hidden spots. So side imaging is definitely a big part of the river, but really, someone can just go up there in a little tin boat with no electronics and drag with the current, and you're gonna get bit. So,
You could
so
have the antique boat with the big fins on it and maybe a horn and a whistle, and you're going to catch big fish there. It's just one of those spots, and just throw the old anchor over. But as time progresses, I really love getting down to the end there where it comes off the lake. It's amazing how many schools and waves that you do get as you get down there farther. The lake itself, and remember, it's catch and release only.
yep,
I never asked, but there's people that had their live wells going. Hopefully, it was just minnows in there. You cannot keep any fish on the Rainy River, and I just want to remind people and be ready to be boarded. The DNR's all checking license as they should, and making sure that we're all catching and releasing and safety equipment. Make sure you got all that. No worrying about lights or props or any of that stuff. The lake is pretty ice free. Even down at Wheeler's Point, that's like one of the most popular places to access because it's close to the lake. That's open, and yesterday some guys busted through there. So, and if you want to keep fish, you got to get past Pine Island. So where actual physical Pine Island is, you have to go past that point. Once you get past there, then you can keep fish, but you can't stop going or coming from there. Just they just want to make sure you're not plucking a few here and loading as you go. So you got to go straight there, and it depends on how much. I haven't been out there yet, but depending on how much space you have and how many boats are there, will dictate how your day comes. Because sauger spawn pretty close to now, and they're going to be spawning from now to just about opener day up there again. And they spawn on gravel rocks and not super shallow. So the farther out you get, you can intercept those sauger, and they're nice this year on Lake of the Woods. A lot of big fish get caught, and I've had many trips out there. It's amazing. So you can't take them here, but you can take them there, and it's the same old Lake of the Woods limit. Only four walleyes, and then two could be sauger. Or actually, let me take that back. Maybe Sam, you could check that, but you can only have four walleyes, and then sauger's the bonus fish, or you could have saugers, and that's what it is. And most of the time, we're just throwing them back, but that's past the gap. So just to make sure, I seen some live wells running out there, and hopefully, had just really nice minnows in there.
yep. Okay, I'm trying to see if I can find Lake of the Woods, Rainy
Well, you
River.
check that out, and I want to
Just check,
talk about.
check the. I would say just check the local regulations.
It's on the signs.
It's an easy Google search. I won't waste your guys' time me searching it,
So
but check the regulations for sure. And that's
that
another
was
thing. Uh,
a real hot one for Sam there, and this was a real good one. This is Glow Moonlight, and that's been really hot. And Eye Candy, I was just at Timberline Sports. That's That's a black duck. And as you're going up to Lake of the Woods, it's on the way if you're going up 71, and they have eye candy there, and
Yep.
they had a big display, but it's kind of hidden in the back, and some of the pigs are missing some stuff, but it was nice to see that, and so definitely go farther back there, and you'll see them. And then, of course, this is how it all started
Smoke,
here. This smoke shad.
smoke shad. That's my favorite color.
That one right
Not,
there, I could use anywhere, and catch fish. But you get out, we're talking about Rainy River, and Rainy River is hot right now. I can't wait to get back out there, and I'll be there Saturday and Sunday. So if you see me, say yo, say hi. I'd like to see everybody there. And it's surprising how many people I know when I'm up there. And if I don't know you, I'd be glad to get to know you. It's a fun fishery, but I did the 1-2 punch, and I've caught so many fish there that so if I'm going to use whatever tail I use, I'll try pink. You were using glow white,
yep.
but I love that spinner, and you can feel it spinning. If you use braid, you can feel that spinner spinning. And I got St. Croix, and I'm using St. Croix. I had a Legend tournament at the time, Legend Elite, and I had a physics rod, and that thing's pretty cool. It is a neat rod. But you can feel that spinner spinning, and then you fall back and you hit the bottom. If you hit the bottom too hard, then you might get a different kind of bite. And I had one of those bites on a paddle tail with a
Yep.
spinner head. Using this, I caught a big sturgeon, and let's show that one here. It should be right coming up here, but a big sturgeon while fishing walleyes, and there it is. Actually, it landed that using a Legend tournament rod, and that was a 7-footer, medium, extra fast, 10-pound sunline. So I had actually 10-pound sunline with an 8-pound leader. So 8-pound leader on that. So that sunline landed that fish, and that rod. I had that thing. I was fighting as hard as I could. And how many people break their
You,
line?
I would say you're kind of acting like you had 20-pound on. You horsed that thing pretty good. And earlier in the day, we saw someone fighting a sturgeon, and they probably fought it for 45 minutes.
Yeah,
Right, until we lost sight of them. They just kept drifting downstream with it. You were able to horse this one up, which is probably like a 55 incher, like a
yeah.
good quality fish for up there. One that doesn't pull light. You probably got it up in 15, 20 minutes, maybe
Oh
even
yeah.
less than that. It wasn't a long battle at all.
If
So
if if Sam would have had a long handle, he could have got the thing jumped by the boat.
yeah,
It comes up to see what's going on. When it came up and started belly dancing by us, that would have been a real hot fish to bring in. So a little bit later, as we subdued it, Sam grabbed the tail and pulled it in like a savage that Sam is, and he got that thing in the boat. And right there, if we go back to that photo again of the sturgeon, it there's me doing the old sturgeon hold just to show you how big that thing is. But if you look at the other way I'm holding it, I you see it's Heimlich. I'm trying to get him to cough up the lure. I need my spinner head back, but no, I love sturgeon so much. I like to hug them and kiss them, and I
mhm,
bite their fin a little bit, and I set them in. But we put them back right away. And actually, this is because the guy didn't want to sit still, so we're like, okay, you go back now.
yeah.
Those things are just one big muscle. Really fun. Not fishing for them, and I was gonna just pop it. That's what people do when they're walleye fishing. Sam's like, no, let's get them. And so the battle ensued.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people try to break off sturgeon, and it is a battle. It's a little time consuming, but why would you not want to try to catch a 50-inch plus fish? Like it's
It's
just
who's ever in the boat.
a good
I've
time.
been in the boat before where they will throw you in
I
if
know.
that thing
Well,
stays.
what I thought is, I said if I hooked one, would I be mad at you if you told me to break it off? And I was like, probably. So we were gonna catch
Yeah.
that thing,
Well,
and
next
we
time you
did.
get to catch them. That was a
Hopefully,
lot of fun, and it was a good workout. But if someone's fighting a sturgeon, you got to fish that long, milling around and fighting by the bottom, you can pretty much say that no one's going to catch any fish unless you throw it really far away.
yeah,
So, good time, and that's an accidental catch, as well as we got another one up here. Was out fishing. This was a few trips back. but I was fishing with one of my buddies from the I Falls, and he caught a muskie. But if that's Jeff Hamilton, but if you look in the nose of that muskie, that is eye candy, a purple. So he had that purple, and that fish just slammed it, and we didn't know what it was. We thought it was just a pike, and then he brought it up, and it's a muskie, and so there are muskies in it throughout the Rainy River, and you never know. It was a calm day. We've had such strange weather this year. We had hot, warm, calm days during winter, and then winter came when everybody was not used to it. Then now it's nice again. This is fantastic. So everybody should make good opportunity of what's going on.
Yeah. Hey, we're at the middle of the show here, so let's remind everyone about the prize pack. So we got a bunch of stuff we're giving away. Of course, a big Northland selection there. Some of the new stuff. We got some swag from Visit Bemidji, and of course, some Roadshow stuff. So make sure to like, comment, and share the show, and that'll get you entered in to win. Brooke will be picking out a winner towards the end here.
I seen some good tackle in there, ready to hit the river. And so we've been talking about the Rainy River, and I haven't fished them lately, but I used to fish the FLW Walleye Tour. I was a touring walleye pro, and I did the National Walleye Tour. And then some dates changed. In one year, I just decided to stay back and guide, and it's so easy to not go back in again. But I remember in my time fishing the Detroit River on several tournaments, and fishing in the Pro-Am tournament, and then as well as a partner tournament. So I did the Pro-Am twice, and I did a partners tournament there twice. So I've been on Detroit a lot, and that is an amazing river. Is it a river? I think it's a strait between two Great Lakes. St. Clair and Detroit are between Erie and Huron. So Erie is one of the shallowest of the Great Lakes, but it still has a couple hundred feet on the other side. But those big walleyes on Erie race up into the Detroit River and are greeted by people fishing. What's the difference between like Rainy and there? Rainy's in the wilderness on the Canadian border. This is in the cities on the Canadian border, so it's between Detroit and Windsor, and it's kind of a cool setup there. One side is all walking trails and stuff like that. That's the Canadian side, and there's a salt mine and all that. A lot of islands, very very casual side. And on the American side, the GM towers and industry and power plants, but I've seen turkeys and deer in the middle of downtown Detroit on the Detroit River, and there's wildlife all over the place there. But that river is not what it used to be. When I was there, I'm seeing the best of it. Gin clear, aqua blue. It looks Caribbean like, and it's very relaxing to be on that river. If you go up and you fish in the steel mills, you'll be reminded of industry, but still, right where they're running their operations, you're catching walleyes all the way out to the mouth. And it's such a big, vast fishery. And there's a lot of industry around there, but there's a lot of places to stay from there. And then if you just want to go to Erie, so Detroit River is 3 to 4 mile an hour current. So you don't just spot lock and put your jig down. Your jig's going to be on the surface. So they do this thing called hand lining. So they're ripping 1 pound weight with some crankbaits. But for the fishermen, more power. I like to definitely jig my way through it. But on the Detroit River, it's heavy jigs and running with the current. So when you're running there, you got to follow your line. If your line goes to the right, you move to the right. You just keep it straight up and down. The first 10 minutes, if you're from Minnesota, everybody's gonna be mad at you because your line's gonna be all over the place. But get used to it, ride the current, and watch out for other boats. And my best 5 fish on one drift on a sandbar was 48 pounds. If that gives you, by weighing them and releasing them before a tournament, gives you an idea of what's in there. And I've seen 13 to 14 pound fish. So just there's some fisheries. How far are you willing to drive to catch walleyes? Me lately, I like to drive an hour and a half. But I wouldn't mind going back there. From where I'm at, it's a lot farther than the cities. But Detroit River, Green Bay,
Yep.
run around throwing in clear water, throwing plastics at big walleye, selecting them, seeing them, that kind of stuff, or Lake Erie. And if you got internet, if you got something, Facebook on your phone, you've seen of Erie, and it is unbelievable fishery. But you don't have to keep them. If you want to go there, you can throw them back. But they all keep those fish over there. But some really cool fisheries, and then of course the South Dakota border we talk about. Traverse, Big Stone Lake, really cool areas to fish this time of year before you go to your favorite lake. And we had a question on Leech Lake. Uh, and what was that question again
I
here?
think the question was, what are your thoughts on the Leech Lake opener?
Leech Lake is a phenomenal opening lake. The walleyes, there's always a bunch of the males out there are pretty nice size, and so you get a lot of keepers. And the females, depending on the weather beforehand, if it stays consistent like this, it's going to be knockout good
Yeah.
opener. And they're fishing windswept flats, points that have gravel, and never usually have to fish in more than 9 feet of water, except on gin clear days. And Leech Lake is a different lake than it was 3 years ago. Leech Lake is so gin clear, you'll know there's a reef or a sandbar as you're coming up because the area glows up ahead. So you'll look on your Humminbird and you'll see a hump coming up. And as you're approaching the hump, it looks like something out of like the Caribbean again. It's clear water and you just see this glowing thing out there. And you get up there, there's rocks. And so Leech Lake is like the Great Lakes now, super gin clear due to zebra mussels, and not the end of the world. Just change how you fish and adapt to it. Farther away, long casting, same thing. Jig in, jig and a shiner, but Leech is really, really a good lake. And I doubt there's a lake that has more big fish in it
Mhm.
than Leech Lake in the whole
Yeah.
area.
I'll say Leech is one of those ones where you hear of people getting their limit of eaters, but then a 29 or
Yeah,
a 28. Just you got those big fish mixed in. Where some of our other local bodies of water in the Bemidji, Cass Lake area getting those big ones is a little more of a challenge. It happens, but not as frequently as Leech.
yeah. And in Cass Lake, they have meetings talking about what how it's going to be run. It's more of a meat fishery, is what the DNR
Mhm.
calls it. So small walleyes, big perch is how it's being run. When you create a big fish fishery where you have a slot, you're protecting those big fish. You tend to have less big perch and less eaters, but you have trophy fish and probably less stocking because the fish, there's formulas to prove that the fish take care of themselves. So when you have a meat fishery or an eater fishery, you get eater walleyes and big perch. And in our perch triangle here, as you call Leech, Cass, Winnie, and surrounding lakes, are probably the best perch fishing in Minnesota. Then Mille Lacs, in a far distance, is becoming one. Mille Lacs is so full of perch right now; it's ridiculous. If anybody's been out there fishing, it's just unbelievable. And I think with low waters, we had this question, and Sam, you've seen it. Low waters. If we don't get any rain, it's going to be hard to launch, depending on what areas get scooped out or fixed. Definitely to take care of your props.
I got a
Uh,
brand new shiny prop, and I'm just dreading hitting something with it because I know it might be inevitable this year.
I,
Um,
I I just found out how much the props are now, and trust me, everybody, I'm going to damage my prop. And I'm it's just how can you do it? How can you not do it? Even if it's not spinning, you hit stuff with it. But in low water, you just got to be super careful. And I think we're going to be fine. Leech Cast Winnie has a lot. Bemidji has a lot of deep areas you could put it in. And in the spring, so there's a question. Someone brought this up. What's your favorite lake to fish in the spring? Shallow. So depending on what's
yep.
going on, I follow the temperature in the spring. So you start out with the warmest temperature or earliest in shallow lakes like Leech Lake. Leech Lake has so many different basins that there's a shallow water hot bite going on, and there's cold bites where there's nothing going on because Leech has deep spots and shallow spots. You don't go to Walker Bay on opening day. You go to shallow bays and fish sprouting weeds and windswept areas. But if you're out east where I'm at, here on the other side of Winnie, Cutfoot's deep and cold, and there's a big spawning run up way up into the little Cutfoot, and those fish coming back you can catch, but on Winnie, it's the shallow areas that are going to produce on Cass. Cass, if you don't want to get bothered by a bite, you stay on the main lake. If you want to bite, you chase up to the spawning areas, and there's a huge run up into Andrusia. Everybody knows it.
Mm.
Uh, it's a gauntlet, and there's a little smaller run up in Kitchie, and they go all the way up to the power dam through Wolf Lake, and so there's a lot of opening place. But Bemidji can be a good lake in the shallow
Mhm.
flats, but Irving is a
Especially
shallow
when you
lake
find
connected.
that early cabbage in Bemidji. But another thing to highlight is wind direction the previous week or days before the event. Um, Wind pushes so much warm water around, and it can really trigger those fish to bite or not. So I'm always chasing the week's wind forecast of where I'm going. So I always follow the wind. It's going to blow that surface water or surface temperature into a corner, and that's where the most active fish are generally going to be.
It usually is, and remember, fish, the big females don't go far from where they spawned, and the males linger. The majority of the opener day catch are the males. They linger around the areas where they fertilize the eggs, and there's some places where those will be 16, 17, 18 inches long. Some places 19. And I've seen on Leech Lake really giant males, and that the biggest one we ever seen was 27 inches, and we seen a few in the 20s, but that was a rare fish. And but you'll know definitely if you catch them and they're still in that kind of spawn mode, because you'll know which ones are males right away as you bring them in the boat and if you squeeze them. But they're actually doing the stripping the eggs right now, and I'm going to stop over tomorrow and check it out at Cutfoot. Looking forward to go see what's in the net, as before some are green, which means the eggs are hard, and some are soft, so they can get the eggs out of them. But you can look at the pile of fish in the net and pick which one you're going to come back to later, and it's just fun going and looking at it. And just don't ask them if there's any 30 inchers in there if you don't want like eyebrows pointing down, because they don't get them very often. But we catch them out on Winnie. They're there. I was just told by one of the people working there that they don't always follow all the other fish's spawning patterns, and they're just big and old, but they do exist in the lake. So we've talked a lot about walleyes, and I think we would do it justice to talk about crappies. Ice out
Hey,
and spring crappies are one of my favorite things to fish for. What are you
before
going
we
to
get
do?
in, before we get into it too far, can we do a giveaway reminder?
Absolutely, we got to
Okay.
do a giveaway. Let's do it.
Yep. So everyone listening in, we're doing a Northland giveaway with some Bro Roadshow swag and some swag from Visit
Ooh,
Bemidji. So make sure to like, comment, and share, and that'll get you entered in to win. We got
wow.
smelt naders and tungsten jigs and some rigged gumball. So all sorts of good stuff in there. So make sure to like, comment, and share.
Oh my goodness, you're giving away smeltnators in there?
Yeah, we are.
Oh,
Don't tell Gussie.
no, don't tell Gussie. Hey, everybody, do you realize what's going on here? There's a real package here, and it's really we have nothing to do with it. So you can schmooze us all you want. It is totally the producer takes care of that, and it's random, and we don't use AI, but we do it. But now spring crappies, you think all this river talk, but when that's closed, well, the surrounding states, everything's open all the time. That's North and South Dakota. Come on, that's not fair. But don't worry, I might be over there because it's open in Detroit and all this stuff. And who wants to take summer off? Take spring off and go to all these destinations when the walleyes are super
Yeah.
concentrated. Who wants summer? Summer's hot. So go in the spring and hit all these places we talk about. But so next Monday, that's all I'm going to hear about when I visit bait shops. And I heard about a little bit today, spring crappies, and there's tournaments coming up on spring crappies. And or what are you thinking? You going to enter that? Timberline has one, and isn't there another one somewhere?
I don't. You were talking about that. I guess I haven't really paid attention to the local recent ones. We talked a little bit this weekend about how I'm fishing that season-long tournament on the Fish Donkey app. So I got to find myself a big crappie and a big bluegill in the coming weeks up here.
We might know somebody that knows where they're at, right?
Yeah. Well, I can't rely on too much guiding for this. I gotta find some of it on
You
my
got to,
own.
yeah, yeah. It's and this is that time of year. It's kind of north or south to north. So the crappie thing's happening right now out west and south. From Big Stone up to the Ottertail County. There's lakes there that are already doing what they do. There's some lakes they immediately come into the emergent vegetation, what's left over. The submergent dead vegetation sometimes holds a lot, and I'm hearing different stories of crappies and the surviving weeds and moving shallows. And so here's people talking about they're getting crappies right now. And as time progresses, it's going to happen up here. And there's some big crappies out west. There's a lot of big crappies, a lot of numbers. I arguably think there's more lakes with crappies in western Minnesota, in southern Minnesota, than there are up here. We have
And
less. Yep.
Central Brainerd Lakes, it seems like people just get after the crappies this time of year. I'm kind of envious because they always move up like right away. Where like you were saying, sometimes it takes a little bit of time for our fish to move up.
I've had so many people just bomb fishing crappies in our area, and what they're forgetting, or they don't know, it's not that they're forgetting. We are more of a hard bottom area, and it's the chemistry of the lake, the alkalinity, the vegetation. What does the lake have to offer? And some lakes just don't grow huge numbers. Yeah, we have big crappies up here, but we don't have giant numbers, and they're
Yeah.
real fragile numbers. Actually, when ice fishing takes over, it really does damage. But we have some really beautiful crappies. As far as doing a crappie tournament like the ones that we have, they'll let you go to any lake, and you could win on a lot of different lakes. Most of the big waters here have
Yeah.
enormous crappies. Anything big has crappies. Any of the giant lakes, Leech, Cass, Winnie, all the surrounding lakes. There is no one thing, and we're not going to pick on one lake and tell you which one to go to. But when that water temperature gets into the middle 50s, they just start showing up out of the blue. In some years, they'll already be in the crappie area, but this is not your typical area where they just go all in. They're right there right now. So we love crappies. Yeah, Greg
Hey, Greg.
Claushaw. Yeah, I think Greg knows where the crappies are.
Greg
That
might know
guy,
where a couple lakes could be.
I think if you took a blood sample, he is a crappie in some way. He's got crappie blood in him. And Kale, hey Kale, good to see you're here. Uh, Crappie's temperature, it's like a switch here. So you take this low population of crappies, flip that switch, and when it's around 58, they're just everywhere, and you just catch them. Warmest water, of course. And here's the difference. We're in this area. I'm just past Grand Rapids and Bemidji, so we're on a Laurentian divide. So what is that? That's where waters south of the divide flow south, and north of the divide flow north. So right where my house is, the waters flow
Yep.
up to Hudson Bay, and south of my house, about a mile, they flow down to the Gulf of Mexico. So what kind of confusion is this? In some of these lakes, the crappies are on the south end. What did I just give up my secret? Yeah, yeah.
You might
They're on
have.
the south end of the lake in the spring. They're not on the north end. Umpteen boat goes up to the north end. You see these boats coming in, looking, and leaving, and it looks like there's a walleye tournament in town because must be a lot of money in the world looking at these boats coming up, and they all leave. And then when I go out, I'm heading south, and so now good. Now I'm gonna have friends there, but it's okay because where the waters are flowing north, just remember it might be a reverse situation, and then also if we get any cold fronts, any low pressures, it's a reset button. They will go immediately back to the ice fishing areas, and so what I mean by that, they'll be in deep water, and so I would guess if we we're going tomorrow to most of the lakes in northern Minnesota, I would look shallow for a very short amount of time. I'd go to deep, but not the super deep stuff. they find that intermediate areas, if you got a lake that's got 30 or 40 feet of water, they might be in the teens to 20s in Neverland. And Sam, have you ever run into a situation like that?
Say that again.
Have you ever run into a situation where the crappies are in strange areas?
Yeah.
Not deep,
Even
not shallow.
even day of. Um, that it seems like that cold wind kicks up and some cloud cover comes over, and those fish will slide out to not necessarily their winter spots, but that first break. You'd just be in there cracking them, and they're like, "Where did they go?" Slide out into that 5 to 10 feet of water, and they're just sitting out there, um, where it's a little bit more stable once that sun and flat calm hide. So yeah, I've definitely seen that. I've seen that with bass when we have a late opener, and you're able to fish bass shortly after ice out. So
Sam, there's a question. I want you to take this one. What is your favorite color eye candy for Spring River walleye? And then I'll take the St.
yeah,
Croix question.
yeah, okay. I think for Spring River, it kind of depends on the river and the conditions. Um, I really like a white because a white's kind of natural, a natural presentation, but it also stands out. In the dirty water, I tend to go towards those oranges and pinks as well. But like we're seeing on the Rainy River this year, it's super gin clear. And really, kind of all my tactics with plastics have been going to more and more natural if I can get away with it. So I want to be seen, but I don't want to be too bright. So kind of you have to judge by what the water conditions are that day.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think that it's ultimately important to remember that most all species of fish, when they're fry, have a white belly, and so white is a natural color, and they
Yeah.
see white going by, and right away they're going to identify it and want to eat it. Now the rest from to the top, and I see this in your designs. You always start with the
Yeah.
light colors at the bottom and different at the top, and maybe you could explain that to people.
Yeah. Well, just kind of how we pick out colors. Um, I always tell people the one of the hard things about tackle is you can't just pick necessarily what you think is best. You have to pick a wide range of stuff that's going to work for everyone and please everyone. So generally, we try to pick out, um, say we got a group of 8 colors. We'll have 4 whites, or not 4 whites, 4 naturals, and 4 really bright colors. And then within those naturals, we'll have, 2 with a white belly, 2 with a clear belly. And that way it kind of spreads throughout the realm. Now, traditionally, some of those plastic colors, the wild colors have been the best sellers, the oranges and the purples and all that. Recently, with eye candy, we're seeing an uptick in more and more natural colors. Uh, my theory on that is we don't necessarily have to attract fish anymore. With the advent of forward facing sonar, and even just sonar in general, we're able to get on those fish a lot more accurately than we ever used to be. So you don't need to call those fish in from a distance. So when I can go for a natural looking color, that's what I like to shine towards.
Wow, that was just like a scientist there when you answered,
Oh,
and I
I
love it.
try.
So, I get this question: what physics rod? That St. Croix came up with physics, which is really cool because it has a Trigon handle with grips right into the grip lines. So it's got rubberized grips right in the grip line. So it's designed to be in your hand. And I really like the 6.8 medium extra fast. I want to get my hands on that one. I've got right now. I've got a heavy fast, and that's good for rattle baits and stuff like that. Maybe a blade bait to really get it to sing. But I want to get a medium light in that 7.3 extra fast, so I could try it with marabou jigs when I'm fishing smallmouth bass. Absolute blast. And so that's what I use for the physics rod. And then real quick, we keep getting this question, Sam. Real quick, because we're running out of time. Let's
Yeah.
talk about amped outdoors and the battery.
I was just
There's
gonna
we're talking
say,
about that.
yeah. So we were talking about when I was talking about colors, we're able to see fish better than we always used to be, and I think a big a big thing that the fishing world has learned over the last few years is clean power is a huge deal for that. Um, 2 or 3 years ago, it was making sure you're running proper wiring from your starter battery to all your graphs. I did that and it improved it immensely. Now, with these forward facing units, they need even more power. And what I'm going to do this year, and seems like every one of the pros is doing, is running a dedicated um, lithium battery directly to that unit. So I'm going to be running the amped 32 amp hour, 14.8 volt, I believe it is, battery. So that battery is actually running a little bit above your standard 12 volt. And it's okay for these big units to run that. They actually run more efficiently off that. So the more volts, staying within the realm, if you can get that 15 to 14 volts wired directly to your graph, you're going to have no line loss in the graph. Your
And
graph run
lithiums
those.
run hot anyway, so
Yep,
a big suggestion is to have heavy gauge wire. Don't go
yep,
cheap on wires. Get
yeah,
some heavy gauge wire, and
yep,
I think that makes a big difference because they run hot anyway.
yep,
But the nice thing with amped, hey, they're at Race Sports Center in Grand Rapids.
yep,
If you don't know where to look for amped, definitely stop into Ray's. And I mean, they could rig it up in your boat. That's a cool thing there. I was just at Ray's here for their in-house, and it was an absolute blast. And great meeting everybody. And the boats were really selling. I thought it'd be a slow times for me to hear. It wasn't slow. They were selling fast. And my boat's yet to come in. Looking forward to it. But I want to mention too. Uh, on the river, we were handling the sturgeon with Fish Monkey gloves. This is Stealth Dry Tech. We never took them off, and you can see I got
yep,
a little sturgeon slime on there. You don't take them off. It was kind of cold where your fingers freeze, but it was nice out in the same way. And if you've had frostbite, makes a big difference. But as summer comes through, I like to use these guide gloves, and I've had hooks, just the tip of the point go into my finger, and it would have went through my whole finger when I'm dealing with clients. Plus, skin cancer is a real thing. Face mask, gloves, and we're dressed like it's the keys. And you go back 5, 8 years ago, clients used to joke with me, "What are you going to rob us?" Because I'd have this stuff on. I'm like, "Yeah, real funny." But if you go to Florida, this is what they do. Really
yep.
cool stuff. And then they also have, I want to mention their socks. The real difference, made in America, wool, and they got a great footbed. And what is that? That's what gives you that nice arch to your heel. And in the heel and the toes, extra fabric. And these are the boat socks. I mean, they're so comfortable. I just love wearing them. And so check them out. And that's Fish Monkey. And everybody wants to know what this is. This is my Avco hoodie, and they make them which roll over your face. And you were there, Sam, when I was hiding on my secrets, a couple of little secret
So
spots. That
you're giving
thing's
away
nice.
more of your secrets. When everyone looks for bro on the river, you got to look for the guy that's dressed up like that. he's
You
he's
got to
trying
look
to
for the
hide
guy that's
his
got the nice physique.
yeah, he's hiding his secret fishing spots from y'all. So
Yeah,
you don't got to look for the orange beard. You got to look for the face mask all tightened
it,
up.
it, it was funny too because I thought I was hidden, and I had two people. Hey, bro, and they went by.
Yeah,
And then another boat. Hey, that looks like. Is that you, bro? Yeah, I won't lie.
yeah.
But and they caught fish. They never left when, once they found out, and they got some giants. Good to see those guys on the river. And then I want to tell you, this saved me. Uh, Last night I was fishing panfish from shore on a little tiny little private lake south of here, and I was using really light baits, some of these little tiny tungsten lures, but it was clip on, and it was only 6 inches under the bobber. Um, and then Brooks got it there. You should see this bluegill I caught. Absolutely amazing bluegill. But I'm only 6 inches from there. You can see the bobber, a shore
Hmm.
fishing, just amazing. And I wasn't sure if they're going to be there or not using my St. Croix panfish rods. Those things were hard to get through all that debris there. And these little lakes that are scattered around Minnesota still have big bluegills. There was a lot of holes on some of these lakes in the winter. They obviously didn't get them. And that fish, after I took a picture, I nibbled on it a little bit and I let it go, of course, so it could do its thing. But panfish is fun. Trout season. Just a real quick one, Sam. What's going on with trout?
Yeah, I think stream trout opens up this weekend. So depending where I end up, I might chase that. I might go up to the bigger river. I might just take the boat out for some panfish. I haven't really decided yet.
It's getting tough to decide. You gotta
I
weigh
know
your priorities because
there's big
there's
crowds, but big fish, and we'll see. I'm torn, so I don't know
I
yet.
want to go to Duluth just for a day one of these days and go for those big cohos. And they're
Yeah,
getting them cranking, but you can't tell me you can't pitch to them and rip a spoon. Maybe
yeah,
some of our buck shots.
yeah.
That
Even
I
some of
bet you
those
work.
stream trout they have up on the North Shore, I think that would be a lot of fun. Trout has always intrigued me. I'm no master by it or by any means, but it's always intrigued me.
Yeah, and definitely. As we're getting in this time of year, there's so much to do. Bluegills, crappies. If there's tons of minnows and tons of bait, you'll see all the minnows on the surface with your electronics or with your eyes. It's getting that close, that time when the trappers love seeing it when the minnows are just thick in there, and that's what crappies are tearing into. But if you see little splashes on the surface of midge flies leaving, even in cold water, when that sun's beating down on the muddy bottom, you get little midge fly hatches going on, and it happens all summer. And the bluegills will be in those spots, and that's what I found my Rainy River whitefish on. There's a midge fly hatch going on, and underneath them was big whitefish,
Hungry
five,
whitefish.
6, 7, 8 pounders. So look for hatches and you'll be in business. But and then real quick for like 30 seconds, talk about the tungsten crappie king.
Yeah. So the tungsten crappie king is brand new for this year. It's a little bit sold out on the website right now on our website, but you should be able to find it in your major retailers.
I can
Uh,
see
but
why it is.
but what we did, kind of pull one out here. What we did is we made a tungsten specific little jig. So we designed a custom hook for it. It's tied up nice with some feathers, but this one is actually an eighth of an ounce, and it'd be like the displacement of a 16th ounce lead. We also have it in a little undressed form too. So if you want to add a little plastic or live bait, you can do it just like that. But it's a really cool jig. Me and Bro, we were talking. Sometimes it's almost too heavy for the size, which is
That's okay.
maybe a problem now, but it's never going to be a problem come summer. So I'm
Cool
looking
stuff.
forward to
Crappie
it.
king.
Yep, yep.
Crappie king feather jig, crappie king flat fry, or
Yep,
crappie king jig.
yep.
And so look for it and make sure to get out there, get out fishing. We'll see you on the river. And I want to thank Chesterburg Toyota for being along for the ride for the Bro Road Show. And we got to get Brian out fishing. Don't you agree?
Yes, we do. I know.
We're gonna sweep. We're
We're
gonna
gonna
just
try
bring
to
a
do it
big
early
bag.
because the river froze up, so we'll have to get
Maybe a
out here.
burlap sack. We'll put them in there, and we'll just
Yeah.
take them, and they won't know what happened to them. But stop in at Chesterburg Toyota. Say hi to Brian. You want some coffee? They get coffee in there. They got a couch. I love going there. Especially if I get kicked out of the house, I'll just go sleep on his couch. But
Yeah.
Chesterburg Toyota for legendary trucks and great service center and Bemidji Sports Center. If you want a ripping, tricked out four wheeler to hit the trails in between fishing, stop the Bemidji Sports Center and talk to Shane. They'll take care of you. And then don't forget Brady and the gang over at Visit Bemidji.
We need to
Ask them about fishing,
we need to
and
get
they'll
Brady
take
out
care
on
of
the
you.
boat too.
Oh,
So
and he's a guide too. So
I know.
talk to Brady. They'll take care of you. Then ask Brady where the good fishing is. The trails, if you want to take a side by side or four wheeler, because that's becoming a huge thing, and it's here too, not just in different areas. Definitely check that out, and we will see you at 7 next Wednesday. But
Hey,
before I say the rest, Sam, do we have a
say
winner?
can't forget our winner. Yes, Brooke picked it out a few minutes ago now. It's running a little behind, but it is Brian Robinson. So congratulations, Brian.
Congratulations,
We'll be
Brian
reaching out here.
Robinson. You're the big winner, and everybody. I want to thank Sam for being here on the show. He's a wealth of information, and my producer Brooke, Trace, and everybody, my sponsors, and definitely check out the Minnesota Fishing Museum. Donate, help them out. without history, we have nothing. And you go online to do that or get involved. Go check it out. And the Minnesota Pros Night next year, and we will see everybody here later. Don't forget to stop on your way up at Timberline Sports and check out their eye candy display. And there's going to be more coming up. But everybody, be safe on the water. We'll see you rolling on the river.